This is an interview with Mr. Jack Parsons, interviewed in Corpus Christi, Texas on February 17, 1988 by Joel Todd and Mr. Garland Esnick.
No, I want to get all the true facts and everything. You know, if we can get everything, you know. And I asked him if he had you on his list, and he didn't. He said, "Was he on the Oklahoma?" I said, "He dang sure was." I said, "Well, I'd like to find out if you know, if you would agree. You know, I mean, that was up to you if you wanted to give an interview, or you didn't."
I like to have been able to been back at Pearl, seen her when she left to go to start to the States with them. Two new tugboats towing her.
Well, I don't know, Jack. I'm astounded for how little I remember about the whole war. I mean, little events, you know. I guess I let it. I can remember every detail on the railroad, everything I ever done.
Well, yeah.
But war, I guess I must have tried to put it out of my mind because I went in there and all hell broke loose immediately.
I put most of it out with certain things.
Yeah, well, I'm that way, but I remember a whole lot. But I mean, like a lot of these fellows that have such a general recall, I mean a positive recall, you know, that's just, like I was telling him, it's astounding, you know, to hear a man, you know, that's was on stuff and gave real details, you know.
Well, a lot of these people, they're coming up from other memories of giving you details, because I found this out, and a couple of guys that I knew that was aboard the Okie didn't.
Now, I wanted you to know that, you know, I was telling you about, you know, and I've got all these books. I've got 2 or 3 books that states what the armament was.
Why don't you bring them over one of these?
Yeah.
I want to read them because they definitely weren't there on 36 when I went aboard her. And we went through the canal.
Well, I'd like to know if it did have or what it had. See, that's what I want to get in straight. And according to that book, the original armament on there was 10 14-inch, was a 50 caliber, anyway, and 12 5-inch.
Yeah, but I don't think they had a 50 caliber back then, did they?
14. I say 14-inch. But 14-inch.
Yeah.
And then they had their, his book stated, it's a little pamphlet put out with the commissioning, I think.
Yeah.
12 5-inch. But it didn't give any of the anti-aircraft.
No.
None at all.
Basically they were, let's see, I think we had maybe 2 on each side of this anti-aircraft. They had moved them out a little bit where they could come up. What are you looking for?
Is your first name Jack?
Well, yeah. That's what I was known. My real name is John Cameron. But now wait a minute.
Okay.
I've been known as Jack all my life because when I was born, I had a renegade aunt, or my daddy and them had a regular sister that wanted to name me Jack, and my grandmother and my daddy and them didn't want to name me John after my grandfather and Cameron after my daddy. But she had her way, and I've been called Jack ever since. Till I joined the Navy, and then I was called Pappy because I like from May till August being 21 when I joined the Navy.
So what do you want your name to go down as?
Well, it's got to be Jack Pappy Parsons. I mean, as far as Oklahoma.
Jack Pappy Parsons.
Yeah.
Okay, this is February 17th.
That's correct.
1988.
Correct.
This is Joe Todd, an interview with Jack Parsons, and you go by Pappy.
Went by Pappy then.
Pappy.
And all through my naval career.
Corpus Christi, Texas.
Yeah.
What's the address here?
4066 Crosstown.
And what's the zip code?
78415.
78415. Okay. Where were you born?
Toms Creek, Virginia.
Toms Creek, Virginia. And when's your birthday?
August the 20th, 1915, when I was born.
1915. And who is your father?
Rufus Cameron Parsons, out of Virginia.
And your mother?
Ida Parsons. She was out of Alabama.
What's her maiden name?
Hackworth.
Hackworth. Okay. How long do you live in Virginia?
Oh, Lord. I'd say 6 months to a year.
And the family
Moved to Corbin, Kentucky. Well, moved to Kentucky, and I was in Corbin, Kentucky when I was about 2.5 years old. And I was raised in Corbin, Kentucky.
And when did you move to Texas?
Well, I didn't come to Texas till 46 after World War II.
After the war. Okay. Did you go through high school in Kentucky?
Yes, Lilly, Kentucky.
Why did the family move to Kentucky from Virginia?
What?
Why did the family move to Kentucky from
Work, I
Virginia?
guess. Daddy was had taken up railroading. He was a railroader all his life. Brakeman and ended up as conductor, and he died in bed with a cerebral hemorrhage of the brain.
Did you go through high school?
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't. I like one half of the subject of graduating, and I finished my graduation exams in the Navy on board the Oklahoma. But yeah, I graduated.
Why did you join the Navy over the Army, or?
Well, back them days, there's hardly any work around, and I joined out of high school. I joined the CC camp, and I spent, I don't know, maybe a year there, and the camp moved from Cumberland Falls. We built Cumberland Falls, put all trails and everything in there, and up to Pineville, Kentucky. And I was getting my belly full of Army type regimentation, and I went. My daddy's brother owned part of Crummins Creek coal mine, and he got me a job up there as a mucker at night in the mines.
What's a mucker?
Mucker is a track cleaner upper. They had granite. This mine was about 3.5 miles deep back in the mountains, and it about the first mile it had granite, and it had fell, and it was about 15-20 foot up. And you could hear it when this big great slobs of this fall on the track. Why they had to have somebody to clean it up real fast, because the electric cars was coming out with loads of coal on them, and they had to have it cleaned up now, not 30 minutes or an hour from now. And they hired me, and I guess I was making good as money as anybody's making them days, mucking track. And I went to work up there for my uncle, and he had a night foreman aboard there. Hated the name Parsons, and he started riding me. Well, you can ride me so far, and finally I just told the boss man one night, the other boss man, I said, I'm going to stomp him one of these days if you don't get off my back. So a extra big slob of this granite had fell, and I just worked my tail off to get it off the track so the cars could come through. And I'd sit down, and they poured me a cup of coffee. And this foreman came in and started badmouthing me, cussing me. And I told him he better watch his mouth. Who in the hell are you going to make me? And he had his sticker on his hand about that big. And I told him I would. One more word, he had it. So he put a couple more words on me, and I got up and stomped a mud hole in his butt. Turned around and walked to the about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles out to the face of the mine, and we had a big Irishman. God dang, that man's the biggest mother of 6'4", and he just all man. He said, "What the hell are you doing out here, Parson?" I said, "Well, by God, I quit." "Oh, you ain't quit." I said, "Well, you can whip anything in this country, but you're going to have to whip this young man's butt." By God, the condensed me. And I told him, he said, "Well, what's the matter?" I told him. He said, "Well, won't you go on down to the boarding house?" I was living in the boarding house. "And I'll come and talk to you more." I said, "Well, it ain't going to do no good, Ray." I said, "I'm through. I'm finished. I'm going home." So he didn't come by the next morning, so I went on, caught me a bus and went on in home, and I was fixing to join the Merchant Marine. It's the only thing I could think of, to get steady work. And Daddy changed my mind, talked me into joining the Navy. He took me to Louisville and got me signed up, and that's how I come in and joined the Navy, instead of the Merchant Marine or any other thing, or railroader or whatever.
Where'd you go for boot camp?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Tell me about boot camp there.
we had the rummiest alcoholic chief petty officer that you ever seen in your life for a trainer in boot camp. But he believed in us boys, and we won ever I'd say honor we could win in boot camp. But he would, if you was an officer and you come around and jumped on one of us, he'd pull his coat off and whip this officer's hooting at him. He just believed in us that much, because, man, when he'd growl at us, we'd straighten up and stand this straight and tall, and I was the right guy leading that platoon. I'm red-headed. And we just showed every platoon up there, just took all honors away from us. And when we got through boot camp, you couldn't go ashore. They wouldn't let us go ashore, but there's a first class that had run across me somewhere in the training, and he took a like to me. He says, "Let's go ashore, Parsons." I says, "Well, I don't think I can." He said, "Yeah, I can get you ashore." So he got me ashore, and I went ashore with that bugger. Went over Virginia Beach and watched these going on up and down the beach, see, but it was something else. It was good eating, good training, good discipline. It's just one hell of a learning that I don't think that the boots or recruits get this day and time. See.
How long did boot camp last?
3 months. Well, mine lasted. I was there about 3.5 months before the Okie come in. I guess 13 of us was slated to go aboard her from the word go when I guess the services had the communication all through.
Did you request the Okie?
No. They just shipped, when she come in there, she needed personnel, and they shipped 13 of us. All boys from Kentucky and West Virginia, and I think there's 2 from Carolina. But you talk about a rough bunch of unyarks, they was a booger.
When you first saw the Oklahoma, what'd you think?
God, I've never seen anything so big all my life. Well, what would you think of a hillbilly coming out of Kentucky seeing a battleship like that? That's the only ship that I'd ever seen in the Navy. And well, she just as formal as all get out. She had the tripod. She had changed from a mast to a tripod somewhere down the line.
What'd you do when you first got on board?
Oh God, that's too far back to remember. Got acquainted with everybody. Yeah, that's the old lady. That's her, all right. Had a catapult out. Well, I'd have swore we had 3 guns on the number 3 turret.
There were 2 and 3. So there were 3 up and 2 down?
2 up and 3 down.
2 up, 3 down. 2 up,
What is
3
this
down.
picture made?
That's about probably in the late 30s, 37, 38.
Where at?
I have no idea.
Well, I'd have swore we had 3 guns. Maybe not. No, I was on the port gun, on the left-handed gun on the top side, and that's where I got this damn scar on my head.
Where were your quarters on the Oklahoma?
On the other side of the, right in here.
Okay, you say what? Right in here?
From here, all the way back on the other side, on the starboard side.
Okay.
First deck below the main deck.
First deck below main deck.
Yeah.
That's where I studied on, right there. And
Okay. What were your duties in the Oklahoma?
Well, I was seaman deuce. I made seaman first. I would get up in the morning, drink my coffee, and go out and sweep and hose stone the deck down. And then when we was at anchor, after we got that done, my main job was polishing the brass on the hatch on the starboard side, where polishing the hold down bolts and nuts down. There's brass made out of brass, and I'd polish them, and sometimes I'd gnaw it over and over. Bosun made. What the heck was that first? Now,
I can't.
first class, and he would come by and boot me on the butt a little bit to wake me up, see. And this went on all the time, and it was just one training job after another. Train us to man. I was a primer on the 16 inchers, and when we go out to shoot targets, and outside of that, I was in the boat crew, and whatever they put me to doing, well, that's.
Now, what does a primer do on the?
Well, you know what a 30-30 cartridge looks like? When you elevate the guns to shoot it, it comes back down and it goes back into battery, and it brought down the train just straight out, and it elevates down so you can swing open the breech and ram this little cartridge home, which is a primer, which they put 2 or 3 big bags of powder about this long and about this big around in the barrel, in the chamber. And the shell was already rammed home. It stood about that high. And then you'd ram in 2 or 3 bags of powder behind it, and then you'd shut it with this primer in there, and then when they'd elevate it back down to shoot it 20 miles away, why that shell would ignite the bags of powder, and
Okay.
it would shoot off, and one of these training jobs, we had a coxswain on there named Cox, and he come back one morning. We went out early Monday morning, and he's still about half drunk. He emergency elevated, caught me in my head. I dropped down, and when we shot it off, well, I was leaning against the bulkhead, and he emergency elevated the gun and caught my head against the rivet stuck out about that far on the bulkhead, and it dragged me over one, and I had sense enough to just go limp, and when it did, it dropped me, and goddamn, it peeled my head from, well, it took 28 stitches. I put a hand on my head, crawled up the ladder and across the deck and down another ladder, and then through the chief's quarters emergency to the sick bay, and I had 28 stitches put in my head. Sewed me back up, but it was something else.
Describe your quarters on the Oklahoma.
Well, it's just one big, I'd say maybe longer from that window there to this wall, and it was about
30 feet or so?
Oh yeah, about as wide as this here, half the ship. What was the width of that bugger?
96.
At the widest point?
At the extreme beam, I think.
Well, from midships backwards, it narrowed down a little bit, but I'd say it is maybe...
Well, about 30 feet.
So, something like that.
Yeah.
And we had bunks that you could roll up, pull up, and we had quite the crew though in that 3rd Division, I'll guarantee you.
Tell me about some things you did in the 3rd Division.
Well, God help. We had a big guy named Wortham that come out of boot camp with me. He's in the 4th Division, and there was a place when we'd hit port in San Pedro, we'd go on Liberty, and we'd hit for Los Angeles. And up there they had a street named 25th Street. Who's going to be listening to this? Well, I better cool it down.
Want me to shut it off?
No.
Oh, go ahead.
But there was a queer bar up there for men. Very few women ever entered. And I had a pretty strong reputation as a drinker, and not a drunkard, mind you, but I could drink my whiskey and hold it. And I wouldn't drink if I went ashore with you two guys, if you wanted me to go ashore with you, because somebody had to stay sober. And they was 4 of them, besides myself, my eyes fifth, wanted to go and check this bar out. I said, boys, I'm going to tell you something. 2 of them was fighters in the fleet, and one won the fleet championship, and the other 3 were just damn hillbillies would fight you just like a bobcat. And there wasn't nothing to do but me drive them up there. We got up there, and 3 of them went way in the back end of the bar, or 2 of them went way in the back bar, and 2 over here, and I stayed at the bar. Even the bartender was good. And he knew there's something was up because of the way they dispersed themselves back in the city. And he says, Red says, what are they up to? I says, mister, don't make me lie to you because I can't tell you what they're up to. But I said, I'd watch them if I was you. Well, ain't you with them? I says, well, I'm with them, but I am not with them. Whatever they're going to do, I don't have no part in. I'm going to laugh at them because I know what's going to happen. Sure enough, they was good-looking dolls back in there, goddamn. They was dressed fit to kill. And these cats got playing around, and these girls would let them play with their legs and run their hands up the leg, and they run their hands up the leg. They got a hold of a long one instead of a flat one. And they reached smart aleck, and they pulled. And that's when the fur hit the fan. Them queers whipped them boys, not by the foot, by the inch to that front door, and kicked them out on the sidewalk. And they turned, and I says, now, you're dealing with a different thing now. You better leave me alone. Because I didn't have no part of them, and this bartender spoke up and helped my cause. They'd have thrown me out, but they was going to have a time of it because I didn't have no part in it, and I didn't go in there to have no part. But them boys, you talk about a bunch of criers. God almighty. Them queers had, well, a good deal before this up there, they had been pickpocketing or stealing our wallets. See, we used to carry wallets back here in our over pants, and they had picked a pocket and run, see. And we took, I guess, every sailor that's and soldier is in the area that could get to Liberty, rode the red cars and the trains and drove their own cars to L.A. And we went in there and whipped every pachook, nigger, and what have you up there that we caught on the streets and told them, don't you ever jump a sailor or soldier again. Because they'd whip them and throw them over a viaduct. They killed them, 1 or 2 of them. It was something else, but these cats cried all the way back to San Pedro. I tried to tell you, I said, hey, you dumb mothers, I said, I told you what was going to happen. You wouldn't believe the old man. And so that's one of the main things, but hell, you could prompt and I could talk for 2 or 3 hours or days about what happened in the 3rd Division, but little Cox, he thought he's the best fighter that ever walked on 2 legs, and he's a little bit of pipsqueak, and I could take him, pick him up just like that and shake him. Did you ever, was he still there? Huh? Well, he's bound to be in,
Well,
he died.
What I mean, I don't remember.
Oh.
See, I wasn't on there, but just, I didn't get acquainted with anybody.
Well,
I mean, at the time I possibly...
he was, he died down in the handling room.
He did.
Oh yeah, see, I was aboard Saturday night before the Japs hit us Sunday morning.
Oh, you were on the Oklahoma then?
Well, no, I was on the USS Ontario, but Archie West, boy from my hometown, had joined the Navy, and he was aboard there as a first class, meat cutter. He's a first class cook, or anyway, he had the butcher shop, and he'd called me up from my hometown, and he had married some gal in Ogden, Utah, Mormon, and she'd seen him 2 big boxes of food, one with a 5th of whiskey, and the other with a pint of whiskey and turkey and chicken and all, and he invited me over to help eat and drink, and I stayed there till 2:30 that morning. He said, hey, you've got half the night here, why don't you spend that? No, I went on back, got my motor whaleboat, went on back to the Ontario. But it's a wonder that I hadn't been aboard that night. If I hadn't had that motor whaleboat there, I would have probably stayed. It was awful close. But,
Tell me your average day on the Oklahoma.
get up in the morning, drink your coffee, hold it on the deck, that's in port, sweep it down and polish brass. Eat noon lunch. If they had some paint chipping to do or in the compartment or something, we've done that. Corked off, loaf. Eat the evening meal, in port, go ashore that night. It's just one of the it's a routine. I don't remember now what year it was. We was underway going to might have been going to Bremby. We got in a heavy storm back this side of Frisco, and the whaleboat on the starboard side broke in half. We woke up next morning, got out there, and it's still a big storm going. And there's about 15 or 20 or more people hugging in close to the bar beds, where the turrets, where the big guns swung. And all these boatswain mates, hell, they 2 or 3 first class and second class, and boatswain Kelly was there, and all of them couldn't figure out how in the hell to get rid of that boat. I stood there and listened to them for about 10 or 15 minutes. Seaman first class, just brash as hell, full of pea and vinegar and all this other good. I says, I raised my voice. I said, well, if you people, whoever's in charge here, I didn't holler at boatswain. Wetzel was the first class's name, the 3rd Division. I says, Wetzel, I'm surprised at you people. Standing here and arguing, talking how you going to get rid of that damn boat. I says, and Boatswain Kelly come step up close to him and says, well, Parsons says, what do you mean you know how to get rid of that? I says, well, if you can get me a coil of line, a quarter or half an inch, and give me the sharpest knife that you got in this outfit, I'll get rid of that boat in about 10 minutes or less.
Now, where was this boat?
It's on David's, on the starboard side of the right, a little bit forward of the breaking the boat deck, wasn't it? No. It's right after it. Yeah. Right after the breaking the deck. But it's on 2 Davids hanging out there. It had one on the starboard side and one on the port side. And the storm somewhere during the night had broken this thing half in two, and the back half was gone. Supposed to get what'd you say, Parsons? Well, everybody knew me. See, I was in a racing crew, and I played baseball and all this other good stuff. And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if you can get me a coil of line up here, quarter, half an inch, and that sharp knife, I'll get rid of the boat for you." And so while they brought the coil of line up there, and it always come out from the center, and I took it out, and the storm, man, that sea's coming up, and I says, "Where's the phone to the bridge?" And I told him, I said, "Cut it sharp to the starboard." I said, "I don't know, lee." And the lee came, and I went out there and run that rope around that cleat so it would slip through there. And I come back and tied this line around my waist so it wouldn't tighten up on me if I happened to slip off the ledge. And so I got the line all run out so they could feed it to me real fast. And I told the bridge, I said, "Cut it to starboard real sharp so I can have a leeway here for about 2 minutes or less." And when they started that swinging, well, I made a run for that David. And they had chains up about this half a day. And I done got that chain, and I was up on the swing out of that David. And I done had this knife in my mouth, and I done cut them lines. Took me 3 whacks, and that boat is gone like that. And I told them, I said, when they was looking back from the bridge, I said, "Now when you see that boat go," I said, "you bring her back to starboard again, so I'll have leave to get down. I won't sweep me off the board and beat me to death on that line there." And they done that. From that day on, Boatswain Kelly for about 4 months sent word that he won't see me in his quarters. First time ever, Parsons says, "I want you to put in for coxswain, and I'll guarantee you'll get it the first rate." And I just ignored him, and he got me up there 2 more times after that. And I finally told him, I said, "Boatswain Kelly," I said, "I don't want no part of coxswain." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, in the first place, a boatswain's got to be a horse's ass to be a good one." And I says, "I wasn't." And I says, "I wasn't cut out to be a horse's ass." And it kind of teed him off, but he could understand what I'm talking about, so he never did bother me no more. But I'd like to know whatever happened to old Boatswain Kelly. I guarantee he was a sharp cookie.
Can we turn that line up?
Sure can.
Did you go to Spain with the Oklahoma?
No, I got on her after she come back from Spain. She was over on a rescue bit, and she come back to Norfolk, Virginia, and that's where the 13 of us went aboard.
What's a racing crew on the Oklahoma?
What's what?
The racing crew.
It was a 12-man racing cutter. They don't have them anymore, but man, that used to be the elite of the fleet, the racing crew of the Battleship fleet. They get an Iron Man for it, and you race on the course there, coast of Trona Field, San Pedro, and I had it every year. God dang it.
So what kind of boat did you have?
Well, a long, low-slung boat that had oars staggered, and there's 12 of them, and had a coxswain in the bow. And man, we could fly. Well, you've seen these racing cutters. But it was a 12-man crew, and man, God dang, you talk about being in shape, buddy. We'd go out of a morning at daybreak and row up and down it outside of the island of Trona Field over in San Pedro. And
Which battleship had the best crew?
well, I'd say the Oklahoma did, but they cheated us out of oh man, you talk about a fight. They'd pull every trick in the world. We got beat out one year over there, but the Tennessee was the flagship at one time, and that crew cut in on us, and we boarded them, friend. I guarantee you, we went overboard, and they come in and made us cut sharp to keep from winning, because the Pennsylvania, I believe, was the flagship at that time. They was about like this in front of us, and we done put on a surge, and everybody in there knew that we was going to win it. And the Tennessee come in there, and we boarded them, buddy, and the Admiral was riding over here in the Admiral's barge, and he come in and put every darn one of us on report. But we didn't care. We never did get anything out of it. But buddy, I guarantee you, we swamped that character and took every one of them. We was trying to drown him. And he come in with his loudspeaker, and he says, "This is Admiral so and so," says, what in the world was the word he used? Behead. It's not behead, but anyway, he's letting us know to quit, and we had to quit and crawl back aboard that day.
What, you get a trophy for the?
Oh yeah, we had a trophy case in there, and we got the Iron Man, and we.
What's the Iron Man?
It was just a trophy, just like these. These are all Pearl Harbor survivor trophies. It's just a trophy that the Iron Man we used less water and hit more targets, and all of it compiled in one. See, the boating, the shooting, and the evaporator work, navigation, all of it worked towards the Iron Man. See, and boy, them goddamn battleship sailors, they'd fight you like a cat and dog.
I talked to one guy, and he said he requested the Oklahoma because it was the most unregulated ship in the Navy.
Well, I'll tell you what. That, to my opinion, was not true for this fact. We had the most, well, let me say in the 3rd Division. Holy Harn was the most unregulated character that you ever run across.
Who is this?
Cox. Holy Harn was a 2nd class, and he was, god dang, he was regulation par excellence, and Wetzel was a mediocre 1st class, and we had one other 2nd class, and I can't call his name to save my life. But basically, they all didn't like the Oklahoma because we was whipping their butts and racing. The baseball team, boxing, hell, we had 2 of the best damn fighters that you ever laid an eye on board that ship. And two.
What were their names?
Shit. I'd have to look back around. I've got pictures and all this shit someplace, but they. Excuse me a second.
They was a very well disciplined ship. I mean, I couldn't have anything to say about that.
But this guy said that all the sailors were there because it was the best ship to be on.
I heard the statement.
Yeah.
I didn't agree. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah.
But very, very disciplined. Very disciplined. When I was aboard.
Yeah.
What was we talking about?
Discipline.
Discipline.
Oh, but they hated and the word, oh hell, we had a name.
I'm with you on that discipline. They was very well disciplined.
I'll guarantee you, buddy, when a coxswain or anybody told you anything, or seaman 1st class told you anything on board the Okie, I got you better do it. Because it was, well, I thought it was one of the tightest run ships that we had in the fleet, because Tennessee and the Pennsylvania, West Virginia, that's basically the 3 or 4 that I had in contact with. I knew just about somebody off every ship. But man, you could talk about some of the stuff that them seamen and coxswain got away with, and by God, you didn't get away with it on Oklahoma. And whoever's been telling you this, I'd like to talk to them and get them to tell me some of the stuff that we're such a ragtag bunch.
Okay. Can you relate just some incidents on the Oklahoma that you remember that happened?
Well, that elevation that just about tore my head off, told you about, and that boat, that pulling whale boat that I cut loose. We come a little losing a plane off the catapult one time. The firing, the powder charge that was used to get it off, I don't know, something happened, and it got off, and the plane went off the end of the catapult and dropped down, just about touched water, and it caught and went up, and man, we done thought we'd lost a pilot and a second seat man, and I don't remember now what the heck we sent him off for. But
were you on board when the Oklahoma hit the Pennsylvania on maneuvers?
No.
Pennsylvania was a flagship, and they signaled the turn, and then Pennsylvania didn't turn, and the Oklahoma turned into it.
I don't remember that. I don't think that happened from 36 to 40. I wouldn't swear to it.
What about when the Oklahoma hit the tug in Bremerton coming out of dry dock in the fall, and this tug pulled these train cars pulled in front, and the Oklahoma hit them?
Well, now I remember something about that. It's similar to that. Now, where there's the same. Do you remember what year it was in?
It was late 30s or 1940 or something.
Well, it could have been after. No, it couldn't have been after 40, because they didn't after. It might have been before 36 before I got aboard,
Yeah,
because I'd something like that on the 3rd Division. You'd know it for dang sure.
Yeah, they had to go back into dry dock because
yeah.
they said it bent the stem on the ship. They had to repair it.
I don't think it happened.
Okay. Why'd you leave the Oklahoma?
Well, I was a baseball player, and the fleet was wanting top-notch athletes, ball players, on certain ships, and they had a ball club aboard the Vestal that was top-notch, and they wanted me. They transferred me over there to play baseball. And God, that wasn't too long before the fleet went to. Was you on there when the fleet went to Pearl, or did you get to Pearl after the fleet got out there?
No, I got on board the Oklahoma at San Pedro and went to Pearl.
Well, it wasn't a couple of 3 months. Maybe it's been a little bit longer. But I went aboard the vessel to play baseball. And just as soon as I'd put in for just some more on duty. And I rode the vessel out there, and we had more got out there and anchored. And my orders come in to go transfer to Samoa. I was going out there as excuse me. I was getting transferred out there as a maintenance petty officer for the fleet, for the hospital ambulance. And I got out there, and first class. I was second class for this time. I'd been transferred to the black gang in Hokie, and I made second class. And I got out there, and there's a first class that done finagled me out of the hospital job to shoveling coal on the USS Ontario.
What kind of ship was the Ontario?
Seagoing, coal burning tugboat.
So you were shoveling coal on the Ontario?
Yeah. I shoveled coal for 19 months on that thing. I made one trip back to Pearl and back.
Yeah.
But we was inter-island hauling copra and natives between the islands. It was just.
Where did you play the baseball games? Where were they?
Corner field, and all over the state, wherever we could play. And after, I even played ball in the South Pacific during the war. We had some
Keep it collected.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You were talking about the baseball games
But,
and the Ontario being a coal burner, and you were traveling around the islands.
We've hauled many a sack of cobra and natives between the islands, and we were coming back into Pearl. We left there November the 20-something, I guess, to come back into Pearl to change her into an oil burner. And we was there about, I don't know, maybe 10 days or 2 weeks, and that's when the Japs hit us. I had a brother that came aboard about 4, 5, 6 days before they hit us, and I was down below shoveling coal out of the bunker into the bucket that was lifting it out to get rid of all the coal that we still had left aboard.
Tell me the morning of December 7th, when you first got it.
Well, for some reason or another, I was aboard. I guess because it's a brother of mine, and we'd had breakfast and we was walking around the stern of the ship, and here come the first flight of about 3 torpedo planes flying over us, and them suckers looking over the cockpit grinning at us. I could count to 10. And we had Saturday before we had transferred all of our guns. We had about 20, 30 30-06s, and we had one 5-inch, I guess you'd call it an AA gun, but it had been taken off, and we had 145 aboard. And we didn't have a gun shooting. All we had to do was stand there and look at it. No way of getting underway, no way of moving, period.
And where were you?
Right, you know where the 1010 dock is down on the end, and we was down the last little slip, tied up. The day before, there was about 4 new square stern cruisers that pulled in there and tied up. And there wasn't no way in the world, like I told somebody over radio, TV here, if I'd had a handful of rocks, I could have knocked them boogers out of there, because they had wooden props, and I could have sure disabled some of them.
And so you saw the torpedo planes coming over.
Oh yeah. They'd come over us and turn starboard and drop down about 10 foot of the water and drop them fish, and away they went.
Did you see the Oklahoma hit?
No, I didn't see him. There was a big long building between us. They'd come down like that and go around that building and drop down. But I saw the Arizona when she exploded. Well, I didn't see her. I saw the smoke and the fire and everything reach to the high heavens.
Well, I thought I had a map that I done for Battleship Road.
You do. You showed it to me.
I left it over. I thought I had another one.
You left some packets.
Yeah. So what'd you do? What was your reaction when you saw the Japanese planes?
Well, the ain't damn thing you could do. It's just, I was fighting mad. A chief was a senior officer under the lieutenant's charge of the ship, commanding officer, and he had a 45 strapped on him. I tried to take it away from him. And no, he said, "Parsons, leave me alone, I'll shoot you." Well, he wouldn't let me have it, and he wouldn't shoot, and I told him, I said, "One of these days I'll stomp a mud hole in your butt, buddy, without that gun on." I said, "Before this war is over, you and I are going to have it." Well, it didn't turn out that way, but I finally, after the war was over with him, I'm back home on leave, and somebody come by. One day I'm standing on the corner, and they say, "Parsons, there's so-and-so with a name over here has been bad-mouthing you for about a couple of months." When I heard his name, I pardoned myself, and I went and got in my car, and I headed for this street that he lived on, or that he is on. And there he was out in the yard raking the leaves. I says, hey, buddy, you remember me? And his wife stepped out of the door about that big fat dude. Yeah, Mr. Parsons, come on in. I asked him, I said, you want it out here in the yard, out here in the street? She says, in the yard, Mr. Parsons, I want to see this. Because he apparently been bad man in the hill. All of Parsons, even, that's my hometown. And man, he made a little bit pass of me, and that's all I need. I tore him a brand new and knocked him down and reached down and picked him up. I said, I want one more. You want to stand up and take it? She said, make him stand up, Mr. Parsons. I made him stand up, and I gave him a right to the jaw and knocked him through. I turned around, she says, thank you, Mr. Parsons. She went back in the house, and I went out the gate and got my car and left last time. And he wasn't there 2 weeks more. I don't know where he's just visiting relatives or what. You know, it was pathetic. That son of a Billy Goat wouldn't shoot that 45 and wouldn't let nobody else have it. We asked him why, and he said, well, hell, they'll shoot at us. I said, well, right damn, what are we here for? You know.
Whenever you heard the Oklahoma had been sunk, what was your reaction?
Well, it just tore me all to pieces, and it wasn't too long after that. Well, hell, it wasn't 3 days after that. The Blue had got out, had picked up, I guess 6, 7, or 8 of the fellas off Oklahoma, and this Archie West was one of them, this buddy of mine, and he sent word to Ontario to come see him, and so I got somebody to man the engine on these pulling diesel whaleboats, pulling whaleboats, and went over to the Blue. And here these characters were standing on deck with nothing but shorts on and maybe a sweater that some of these people had given. And he said, Jack says, I need some clothes. I said, buddy, I'll get them. So I turned right around, went back to Ontario, and I told the commanding officer what I needed. He called the ship to quarters, and I guess 50, 60 of them. He said, bring every rag you can afford, put them right here in these laundry bags. And I took them back, went right back over there, and it wasn't 3 hours till the Blue went back to sea, and I never did hear about what all happened. But Archie, he retired, and he's dead now. He's been dead, I guess 4 or 5, maybe 10 years, back in Kentucky.
Did you see the Oklahoma on our side?
Oh yeah, but again, after that, yeah, I did hear about from him. He sent word to me, or radio or something, to go. They had cut some ensign off the Oklahoma, had been made ensign, and he was the salvage officer.
Yeah, I forget what his name is now.
But anyway, I went aboard her, and they had cut a hole in the, you know, she's up on her side, and the side right by his locker. And I went in there, and somebody had already torn it. He had about $300 or $400, $500 of cash in there, and a couple of 3 books, and whatever. And somebody tore his locker open, took all his cash and everything else on it. Yeah, I was down inside her, laying on her side there.
What did the inside look like?
Well, it just chairs, that's all. It just every lockers and bunks, everything was laying on it. Just, well, you take a vessel like this and just turn it up on its side, and everything's up. Everything is upside down.
What was your reaction when you saw the Oklahoma on the side?
Well, I don't know. You see them all, West Virginia and Arizona, and I guess.
But you've been on the Oklahoma.
Yeah, but well, you know, you're so scared and you're so dang mad that you didn't have no feelings, just mad at the Japs. See, I immediately transferred as fast as I could to aviation, so I could get in an airplane. I wanted to do some damage, and it took me a year from April of 42, yeah, till November 42 before I could go back to flight school. They just madder than hell. That's a sneak attack, bunch of slant-eyed mothers. Phew. I can't stand to look at one today because it's just like they wasn't but one or two smart men in the Japanese outfit. I don't think it's that admiral that said that we've done the wrong thing. We've awakened a sleeping giant. That's all they'd done.
So what did you do during the rest of the war?
Well, I flew patrol for practically a year out of VJ2, and come a little getting 2 Jap subs one morning, but the damn skipper of the plane wouldn't let me fire at them, and they both crashed dive and got away. So we finally got him in the Black Shoe Navy out of the pilot's seat on account of this, and then in November I went to flight school and busted out of flight school. I liked about 2 weeks getting my wings. And today I can fly an airplane just as good as anybody else, but no money to buy a plane and no reason to fly them. And I went back to war at Stag 1.
Now what's Stag 1?
Special Task Air Group 1. We was a squadron of radio-controlled aircraft that we could hit a target 20 miles all the way on the horizon through a screen. Had 2 pilots in the back seat of the TBM and the pilot flying it. And these 2 pilots back here could fly that drone, twin-engine drone, into a door that big and 20 miles away through the screen.
So what did you do in VJD?
I was sitting on Tinian, and I had this one brother of mine, the first one that joined the Navy with me. All of them did, with the exception of one. He was flying B-29 out of Tinian, and he was on both the flights that dropped the H-bomb. And I was there when they dropped the second one, and when the Japs declared that they give up, while I was sitting on Tinian, the war's over there, and so that's when I come back to the States.
You celebrate?
Oh God. Oh Lord. We had quite a celebration. My brother's birthday is on the 22nd. Mine's on the 20th, and we had a brother-in-law. His brother was aboard the island with us, Seabees, and we throwed a drunken party over there in this lieutenant brother's hut. And man, they threatened to come over and whip us, and we told them, come on. that we was ready for it. But this.
So what did you do after the war?
Well, come back to the States, and brought me a dog back with me, and went back home and come back to Corpus. No, I didn't need to come back to a little airport there in California. Went from there to Whidbey Island. Stayed up there 3 or 4 months, and went to Chicago to Corpus. And my car went by, I owned a Buick this time, and we come into Corpus with a low and reverse out of it, and met with the wife, and courted her for 4, 5, 6 months, and we got married, and ever after it's been home sweet home.
Whenever anyone mentions the Battleship Oklahoma, what do you think of?
A lot of the good times and a lot of the hell that I caught when I was aboard it. This shining this brass work. There's a lieutenant aboard her, the name of Thomas, and he'd come by there. He had caught, stand up on the boat deck somewhere, caught Wetzel. I seen Wetzel booting me in the butt. You know, Wetzel just come on, just barely touched me. Parsons wake up, something like that. This goddamn stupid lieutenant. He come by, lifted me off the deck. I come on around, I say, sir, what'd you do that for? You asleep? I said, sleep your ass, sir. See, if you always put the sir behind it, there ain't a damn thing they can do about it. And I said, don't do it no more. Next day he come by and he done me get away again. God damn, he lifted me. I come unwound. I said, sir, I'm going to tell you something. Don't ever do that again. Because I am going to stomp a mud hole in your ass if you do, sir. Well, during the day I talked to the Volkswagen Wetzel and Horn and Cox and all of them. And it appears that somewhere on the trip back from Spain, Lieutenant had been aboard there with just like this Thomas. He had pulled all this chicken chip means and he was lost at sea. Sometime during the night, somebody caught him on the railing and throwed his ass over. And they told me, says, well, when he comes around in the morning, which he will, he's got him a run on. He says, act like you're asleep, more wait till he raises that foot back and then jump up and act like you're going to knock his ass off and then tell him this little story. Well, he did, man. I've always been quick. I jumped up, whirled, and act like I was throwing a right at him. I said, no, I want to tell you a little story, Lieutenant. I says, on this very same ship in this very same division, I says, there was another fellow, Lieutenant, just like you. I says, he had a bad habit of pulling this bullfrog against an enlisted man. And I says, you know what? He disappeared somewhere between Spain and the United States, and they haven't found him to this day. So I said, I guess you'd better take heed. And 2 weeks later, his transfer come in. He done asked for transfer. He transferred back up to Iowa or somewhere up there on Naval Air. But it's a lot of good memories aboard the Okie.
What's your fondest memory?
Damn, I don't. It's well, I couldn't put the fondest on the tape, but I'd say some of the ball games and some of the races we was in.
When we shut it off?
No. It's pretty delightful time all during the 36 to 40 when I was a boarder, because back in them days you hardly ever run across a horse's butt or a jackass, you know, that there's all pretty straightforward people, and there was no alcoholics, because one thing, they couldn't get to it fast enough, and they couldn't bring enough aboard to, you know, to keep drinking. And I just don't know. Racing crew, fights, baseball, Marine. There's a Marines is down below us in the third. I don't remember now whether it's on the 4th division or not. But there's one old McGrosky. He was the top kick aboard the ship. Old Ski, he's a blonde-headed, just a sergeant. McGrosky was a master. And old Ski told him, well, he said, I'm going ashore and I'm coming back tonight and I'm going to stomp a mud hole in your ass. Old McGrosky told him, says, you better get your mind off of that, Ski, because it ain't going to happen. McGrosky was having family trouble, and when Ski went ashore, he was sitting with his butt back against the bulkhead here, right but the ladder's going up. And I hadn't happened to have OD's watch that evening from 8 to 12, and about 11:30, 11:45 I got off watching. Well, the last motor launch was due back, and old Ski had to be on it or he's overleave. And they didn't get overleave in them days, but they come back on time, see. And the last motor launch pulled in, I was standing there waiting, and I seen him staggering up, fighting to get his feet under him, get on the gangway coming up the side of the ship. And he's muttering, I want to kick this shit out of him, old Mag. So I'm about this far behind him, following down the ladder, had to walk across, go down the other ladder. I'm about halfway down the ladder, and he got up there, and old Ski was still sitting there. He hadn't moved. Old McGrosky was still sitting there with his butt against the wall. He'd had family problems. And finally, old Ski told him, "Get up, you ugly looking son of a bee," says, "I'm gonna stomp on the butt." And Max told him, "Better go away, Ski." He said, "I'm not in the mood." Ski put the word out, and again, old McGrosky. I'll let you get that.
Okay, go ahead.
And he told him, "Hold a minute. Did you cut it off? Did you cut it off?"
Yeah.
And Ski batted him at it again and reached down and slapped him. And old McGrosky just slowly pushed his butt up to his leg, set himself like that, and turned his shoulders, and he hit that poor Ski. And brother, there was about four bones stuck out on his jaw there. He had broken every bone in his head. And I had to take him, we had to call the motor lights out, and I had to take him to the hospital ship over there, and they put steel. When he brought him back to the ship, about 2 or 3 days later, he had steel bars sticking out, about 3 on this side and 3 on this side. I said, "Ski, are you going to listen to old Mac anymore?" Oh.
Well, I think we have a good interview.
No.
I think so. I think it's been a good one.
Yeah.